Today specifically, the 15th of March, was the beginning of this blessed jihad. What can the international community do? What can the United Nations do? What can world powers do? So you think Bashar al-Assad is going to liberate Al-Aqsa? You think his sect is going to liberate Al-Aqsa? Is fighting Israel? How much we heard Syria, wal-muqawama, wal-mumana'a, and all of these great things. It's all just a smoke screen. It is what is called the Trojan horse. You've heard that term? Hisan Tarwada. You know that term? You think Al-Batiniya are going to liberate Al-Quds? Wallahi, if anything, they are the reason that Al-Quds is still in the hands of the Jews. Now, Assad himself said it. Assad would not like to be known as a Batini. He would like to be known as something else. So he tells them, just recently in the Sunday Times interview, he said, if you worry about Syria in that sense, you have to worry about the Middle East, because we are the last bastion of secularism in the region. You want Bashar al-Assad to liberate Al-Aqsa? He is trying to appeal to the sympathy of the West. He's telling the West, please keep me. I am the last bastion of secularism. I am your last hope against the jihadis. I am your last hope against the Muslims who want to liberate Al-Aqsa. This is the meaning. Notice the word, the last bastion of secularism. He's telling you, I'm not only a supporter, I'm a bastion of secularism. I'm a fort of secularism. I'm a protector of secularism. I am the protector of the Jews against the Mujahideen. This is the reality of Al-Alawiyya and Al-Nusayriya. Why go too far? Rami Makhlouf, his cousin, said it. His maternal cousin said it in the beginning of the Syrian revolution. He said it clearly. He said, peace for Israel comes from peace for Syria. In other words, you give Syria peace, we will give Israel peace. Clear. No jihad, no nothing. Don't believe in everything that's being said, that they are the only people that are going to fight for their last bit of land, the Golan Heights, to get it back from Israel. They said it clearly. We have given you peace for 30 years. And now, because of what you're doing, we are going to rattle the cage. And this is precisely what Bashar al-Assad did. He rattled the cage after 30 years. And he sent some 200, 300 youth to rattle the border of Israel, to send a clear message. This border has been peaceful for 30 years. And now, with one command, I can rattle it. These He said, peace for Israel comes from peace for Syria. In other words, you give Syria peace, we will give Israel peace. Clear. No jihad, no nothing. Don't believe in everything that's being said. Don't believe for a second if someone tells you Iran is changing its position. They'll never change their position. It's life and death for them, literally. To Nouri al-Maliki, the current Shi'i Prime Minister of Iraq, saying to him, Supporting Bashar al-Assad is a religious duty and is the duty of the time. And if Bashar al-Assad falls now, so will the greater Shi'i project. Shi'i project.
الطفل جزاء غير تعذيب وقتل.
Are the Alawis, these are the Batinis. An Alawite state with a question mark, yes. They're seeking, Wallahu A'lam, everything they're doing seems to point to the fact that they are preparing for a Alawite state. It's not so difficult to believe. During the time of the French occupation, less than a century ago, this is precisely what one of the ancestors of Bashar al-Assad did. He was calling on the French to give them an Alawite state. They were telling them, we are Alawites, we're not Muslims, we're not Sunnis. We want to separate, we want to have an autonomous region. Right? Where? On the coast. The area of Al-Ladiqiyya, Latakia, and Tartus, and that whole coastal area. But now, it seems they want more. It's a chance for more, right? They don't want only that coastal strip, right? They want more. This is why they are practicing ethnic and Sunni cleansing in Homs. Homs, right? If you can find that map. Where is that map? Yes. Okay, it's not big enough. Homs is in central Syria. They would like, or rather what they were dreaming of during the time of the French mandate, is just this coastal strip here on the Mediterranean. Now they are ethnically or rather Sunni-wise cleansing Homs. They're keeping the Alawite and the Shiite neighborhoods, and they are killing and massacring the Sunni neighborhoods here in the center as an extension of the Alawite state on the coastal area. Some people say, these are just, expectations, surmising, it's not real. But everything they seem to be doing seems to point to this. And one of the popular journalists for Al-Hayat, and I confirm this myself, even spoke about requests from Western think tanks to study the feasibility of an Alawite state. So it's already in the making, and they are trying to plan for it on the ground. This is the Batinis. So now you have to keep in mind the Syrian people, men, women, and children, these brave people, are now the first line in the fight and the battle of the Ummah against the Batinis. This is the way you want to think about it. These people are anything but friends to the Muslims. The Syrian people are bearing the brunt of that animosity. So now you can see how the Syrian revolution is a cause of the Ummah from the standpoint of their challenging and confronting the Batini challenge. Now, the next category, confronting the Safawi challenge. The Safawi challenge, I'm talking about the Shia, Al-Rafida. Why Safawi? Because they would like to go back to what is called Ad-Dawla As-Safawiyya, the Safawi state. And I'm already running out of time, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. Basically, they would love nothing more also than to massacre the Sunnis and increase their lands one after another and expand the Shiite state. And this is what is called Iran's grand strategy. They have a grand strategy. Just like Israel hopes to have a greater Israel, Iran is planning for a greater Iran. Where? Where? They already have Iraq, right? The US gave Iraq on a plate of gold to Iran. Very interesting political animosity. When you go and you give a whole country to your supposed arch enemy, right? They gave Iraq on a plate of gold to Iran. So, Iran already has Iraq, and they have Syria, and they have Lebanon. Okay? This is what supposedly they call the Shiite crescent. You know who actually used this terminology? Malik Abdullah of Jordan. Mind you, a lot of people are not quite sure what he meant by a crescent. So therefore, everyone is just, and I forgot to put the diagram. If you look for it, you will find all different people estimating what the Shiite crescent is. Some draw it like this, some draw it this way, some draw it the other way. Nobody knows exactly what it is. I think it was just, an appealing term. It kind of sounds nice, the Shiite crescent. In reality, it's not really a crescent. To me, it looks more like a belt, a Shi'i belt, right? From Lebanon to Syria to Iraq to Iran. Okay? It's a full belt here. Okay? The Shiite belt. Maybe if you want to include Bahrain all the way down here, so you would draw the crescent something like this. Okay? What they are calling the Shiite crescent, and fear of a Shiite crescent. Therefore, Iran has or is trying to achieve what they call the Shiite belt. Okay? And if Syria falls, this is a huge gap right in the middle of the belt. They cannot allow this to happen. Therefore, for Al-Rafidah, my brothers and sisters, the Syrian conflict is a matter of life and death. Don't believe for a second if someone tells you Iran is changing its position. They'll never change their position. It's life and death for them, literally. And this is why Sheikh Taha al-Dulaymi, an Iraqi sheikh, told us that some of the main leaders of the Shia in Iraq got together and wrote a critical statement signed by them all to Nouri al-Maliki, the current Shi'i Prime Minister of Iraq, saying to him, supporting Bashar al-Assad is a religious duty and is the duty of the time. And if Bashar al-Assad falls now, so will the greater Shi'i project. The Syrian conflict is not just a revolution of the Syrian people. It's much bigger than that. You see all these complications? All of the strategies, all of the planning, all of the makr, وَيَمْكُرُونَ وَيَمْكُرُ اللَّهُ وَاللَّهُ خَيْرُ الْمَاكِرِينَ. All of these are part of the complications of what's happening in Syria. The leaders of the Shia are saying this is life and death. And in all fairness, Al-Iraq has been abandoned by the Muslim Ummah. Abandoned by the media. The first people who know the dangers of the Rafidis and the Shia and what they are capable of doing to the Muslims are our brothers and sisters in Iraq. And the kinds of things that we are what we are being exposed to now in Syria, our brothers and sisters in Iraq have been exposed to for decades, and specifically for the last decade from the time of the American invasion. Now the Shia. So now I can hear people saying, now you're telling me the Shia also will not liberate Palestine. La wallah. They will not liberate Palestine. They will not liberate Al-Aqsa. It's all just a smoke screen, my brothers and sisters. It's a smoke screen. It is what is called a Trojan horse. You've heard that term? Hisan Tarwada. You know that term? They're just using the Palestinian conflict. They're demagoguing the Palestinian conflict for the expansion of their madhab. That's all. That's why, for them, Syria is life and death. They want to maintain the Shi'i belt, the Rafidi belt, and they want to add to that belt the oil-rich Gulf states. And this is for years and years. We know this. And it is clear, it's clear from what they're saying also. And in all fairness, the protests in Bahrain were not, and I'm not defending the rulers in Bahrain, but I'm trying to show that the protests in Bahrain were not countrywide. It was a sectarian protest. And that's why you saw the protests in Bahrain mainly from the Shia only. Again, I am not defending the rulers. I'm just trying to clarify this point. It was purely a sectarian protest. And this is why Iran, during the protests in Bahrain, Iran started calling for suicide bombers online. And if you don't believe me, I'll give you the website. And they started recruiting online to send suicide bombers to Bahrain. And the protests in Bahrain started putting up pictures of Khomeini. By Allah, is this a countrywide protest? This is a sectarian protest, we know that, right? What was everything that was happening in Bahrain? It was a test. It was a litmus test. They were checking the situation. Iran has its eyes on Bahrain, on Emirat, on Kuwait, and finally on Saudi Arabia. The whole Gulf. So they said, let us first do a test. We'll try the smallest country, Bahrain. And when they saw what they saw, they said, we are far from our grand strategy. It's not going to work. They couldn't even take control of Bahrain. So they stopped. But their grand strategy is precisely that. Finally, you know what they want? They want Saudi Arabia. They want Ard al-Haramain. You don't believe me? Watch this video. This is just a few days ago.
ندربهم حيثما تقتضي الضرورة. نحن جهزنا جيش إن شاء الله سنصلي في الحرمين الشريفين إن شاء الله.
He's saying we're going to pray in the two holy mosques.
هذه العبارة ماذا تقصد بأنكم ستصلون بالحرمين الشريفين؟ هل سيغزو هذا الجيش الحرمين الشريفين؟
سنقضي إن شاء الله على النظام السعودي الكافر الملحد وعلى كل الأنظمة التي تحارب الإسلام وتجهز شعوبها لمحاربة الإسلام ومحاربة النبي وتأييد إسرائيل وتأييد أمريكا.
كيف ستحاربونهم؟
قلت أنه الإمام سلام الله عليه قريب الظهور وسيظهر إن شاء الله وسنتوجه معه إلى السعودية لنحررها.
Do you think this is a crazy man? He may be crazy. Do you think he's just speaking out of his head? Wallahi, he's not. Wallahi, this is exactly what they are preparing. To invade the land of the two holy mosques. You heard what he said? Of course, they are saying we are going to get rid of the regime. Wallahi, God forbid. If they are able to gain access to the land of the two holy mosques, they will do exactly what the Batiniya did centuries ago. They will perform their massacres in front of Al-Haram. against Ahlul Sunnah. Why do you think they are slaughtering children in Syria? I can understand killing a Free Syrian Army soldier. I can understand executing a mujahid at gunpoint. I can even understand cutting off the throat of a mujahid. I cannot understand cutting the throat of a child by al-Batiniyya and by al-Safawiyya al-Rafida. How do you explain it? How can he even do it? It's the same sectarian hatred that you saw in this short film. It is pure sectarian hatred. He believes slaughtering this Sunni child will take him to paradise. And they have fatwas. If you had time, I'll show you some of their fatwas for killing Ahl Sunnah and slaughtering them, and how this will take them immediately to paradise, and so on and so forth. Did you see what he just said? This is a man from what is called Hezbollah in Iraq. Hezbollah in Iraq. He is saying, we have prepared an army, and wallahi they have. And this army is getting ready for Syria before Saudi Arabia. In fact, a Lebanese politician just recently, who's close to the tyrant regime in Syria, he said there are 500,000 soldiers ready. The reporter was surprised. What do you mean 500,000? He said there are 500,000 soldiers ready. He said where? He said in Tehran. 500,000 soldiers ready to come into Syria to prevent the Mujahideen from liberating Syria. For Iran, for the Safawiyya, for the Rafida, it is life and death, my dear brothers and sisters. These are the things you don't see on the media. This is the reality. They have prepared the army. They are going to invade. They're going to meet in the land of the two holy mosques to kill Ahl Sunnah there and to take control and to spread their false religion and their shirk wal-'iyadhu billah. And he says, excuse me, what do you mean you have prepared an army? Are you going to invade Saudi Arabia? He said, yes, we are going to rid them of this regime. So obviously another smoke screen, as if all they care about is the Saudi regime. Then finally he says, how are you going to fight them? He says, the Imam is about to appear. Who is the Imam? The 12th Imam we spoke about in the beginning, right? Whom Muhammad ibn Nusayr said, I am the key to the final Imam. He is saying the Imam is about to appear. So in other words, they are in communication with him. He's saying the Imam is about to appear, and we are going to go with him to liberate Saudi Arabia. Allahu Akbar.